Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the further amendment to the amendment to this motion, because without it, many of us would not have agreed with the motion as worded. Mr. Speaker, indeed, it is it's a time of need in our country, and I want to thank the President and the Executive for the actions that they've been taking. We're seeing good leadership through CS Mutahi Kagwe and his team, and they said that we need to maintain only essential services. Mr. Speaker, in considering this amendment and even the motion later, I asked myself 3 questions, Mr. Speaker. Number 1, is the Senate an essential service to Kenyans? Number 2, what do Kenyans need at this time? And number 3, what are other parliaments doing around the world? Because it's a global pandemic, it has hit many parts of the world. Mr. Speaker, this is a time for vigilance. It's not a time for anarchy. In fact, the thing that is spreading more than coronavirus is fear and rumors. Those two are spreading farther and faster than coronavirus pandemic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the first question, yes, indeed, Senate is an essential service. It is something, at this point, and I've had members saying, let's take this 1 month is the most critical, let's take a break and reassess. Mr. Speaker, in this 1 month or in the next 2 weeks, Kenyans need us more now. At a time of crisis, that's when leadership is needed. Not to take a break and not to look like we're absconding duty or hiding from the people. Mr. Speaker, other countries have faced this challenge. Right now, Mr. Speaker, in the US, they have very many cases, Mr. Speaker. But just yesterday, the US Senate, where there are 6 members who've self-quarantined, the US Senate is debating what they call a coronavirus relief bill. They're doing their work, they're legislating. They're seeing what best to do at a time of crisis. They're not going home, they're not hiding under their beds, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but they have put in place measures. There are no visits to Congress. There are no tourists being allowed to go to Parliament, Mr. Speaker. In the UK, there's a death toll of 55. The health secretary herself has been diagnosed. There are more than 1543 people sick, but they've ruled out adjourning Parliament completely. They've just scaled down visits to the House of Commons and to the House of Lords, and they've put in place measures to make sure that it is a time to put your heads together, of course not physically, but put your heads together to see what measures can be taken at this time of crisis, not to go home. Mr. Speaker, today if I go home, the people who are congregating in Marigiti and Nyamakima will say, oh, the senator is safe, but us, we have been left to our own devices. Who will speak to the people of Nairobi? Who will question national government? Who will question county governments on this issue? Mr. Speaker, in India, as I go to finish, yesterday, the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, had a parliamentary group meeting with BJP MPs, where he told them, in fact, at this time, please give us ideas, go to your constituencies over the weekend, talk to the people, but legislate. Our work right now of legislating, representing, and oversight is more important than at the time of calm and at the time of peace, Mr. Speaker. The same thing is happening in South Africa. In fact, they have many cases. They have 62 cases. But what they've done, they've said they meet once a week in terms of their parliament. The National Congress of Parliaments is meeting on Wednesday, and they're also meeting once a week for urgent business. This is a time to appropriate. This is a time for us to look at Article 109 of the Constitution. Article 109 talks about support to county governments. Support to county governments at a time of a health crisis is extremely important. How will you do that if the Senate is not sitting? So, Mr. Speaker, I urge members to support this amendment. Because if we do not, Kenya will be the 3rd parliament in the world, with 4 cases only, the 3rd parliament to suspend or to adjourn sittings after Canada, where, of course, the Prime Minister's wife has been diagnosed, and Iran. Even China has been meeting in one way or another. So let us not run away. This is a time to show leadership, Mr. Speaker. This is a time for us to show support, to do that oversight. Senator Dulo said that we should know how much has been given to the counties. We can't know when we're at home. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we must say as a Senate that we want a weekly meeting with the CS to update Kenyans on the measures being taken. Once a week, when we meet here, we meet with the CS, because when they do a press conference, they're not questioned. Those press conferences are not oversight. He's giving good information, but the voice of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, are 4.7 million Nairobians who want to ask something. There are millions of Kenyans represented here who want to ask. So let's say once a week, the CS of Health comes here. Let us think. We have creative minds. Senator Orengo, Mutula. Let's look at Article 109. How do we give some temporary but serious support to counties in the health function? We cannot do that if we are at home, Mr. Speaker. I support the amendment, and if it doesn't go through, I oppose the motion of adjourning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question of the amendment to the amendment as proposed by Senator Uta, which is that the following words be added after the words "one sitting in each week on Tuesdays for 2 weeks until Tuesday, 14th April 2020. But I now want to call upon the leader of majority, who had moved the first motion, to make things easier for us by what he's going to say. Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, we have consulted with Senator Ochilo Yako finally, and Senator Uta. That's how we ended up having Senator Uta to come with that amendment, which is more definite, Mr. Speaker. It has the days, which is Tuesday, but also for only 2 weeks. So we are going 2 weeks full and 2 weeks for once a day for another 2 weeks until 14. When we come back on 14th, Mr. Speaker, we now make another calendar, which will be more definite. Because of that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to request the House that we then complete, to avoid debating the further amendment and then the amendment, since there seems to be now a consensus, we dispose the further amendment and the amendment, then you take us just through, then people can contribute to the main motion, Mr. Speaker, as amended. Then we progress. Otherwise, if people go around the further amendment, and then we go to the amendment, and then we go to the motion, Mr. Speaker, we'll spend the whole afternoon here.
Yes, Senator Mutula.
Speaker, can I propose a further compromise? Senator Sakaja and maybe one of our colleagues has raised a concern, and I had mentioned this, that it is futile to go away for 14 days and we come back, again continue talking. I'm surprised that the Chair of Health is not here. In 14 days, this Senate must guide the country in terms of how do we go about this issue, one by one, in something that looks like an emergency protocol, which we can pass a resolution, which can be followed A to Z. But two, the testing of senators. How is that going to happen? So, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest a further compromise where we are meeting the CS, and the CS is telling us, have you procured kits for senators who continue working throughout, can be tested? Because it's futile for Sakaja to go to Marikiti and he's himself not even sure whether he's sick or not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, honorable senators. I want us to vote on the amendment to the amendment. So I now put the question, which is the question of the amendment to the amendment as proposed by Senator Uta, which is that the following words be added after the words "one sitting in each week on Tuesdays for 2 weeks until Tuesday, 14th April 2020. As a manner of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As a manner of a contrary view, say nay. The ayes have it. So we now go. What's your point of order, Senator?
Mr. Speaker, in order not to repeat a debate, I was going to suggest that you put the question on the Ochilo motion as amended, and then we can go to debate that motion as amended. Mr. Speaker, just to be clear, we are debating, we want to put the question on the Ochilo's motion as amended. And then after it's amended, then we go to the motion as amended. Yeah.
Okay. Other members, we are now voting on the amendment by Senator Ochilo Yako as amended. I now put the question, which is that the motion be amended by deleting paragraphs A and substituting, therefore, the following new paragraphs. A, adjourn its plenary sittings today, 17th March 2020, for 2 weeks, so as to reconvene on Tuesday, 31st March 2020, and to thereafter hold one sitting in each week on Tuesdays for 2 weeks until Tuesday, 14th April 2020. As many are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many are of a contrary view, say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, order members. Okay, I now propose the question, which is that the motion be amended by deleting paragraphs A and substituting therefore the following new paragraphs. A, adjourn its plenary sittings today, 17th March 2020 for 2 weeks, so as to reconvene on Tuesday, 31st March 2020, and to thereafter hold one sitting in each week on Tuesdays for 2 weeks until Tuesday, 14th April 2020. Now the debate will continue. Okay, Senator Abshiro, it continues. Okay, we are now back to the screen. No hands. Okay, Senator Abshiro. What's your point of order, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.?
Really?
As whip, I was wondering out loud, so that because people are streaming out slowly, and I don't lose members. Mr. Speaker, I wanted you to make a determination I don't want, I'm pleading that you give us direction that this is not a matter concerning counties so that I don't have a problem when people leave. This is something that I think Speaker must direct us on. Thank you.